Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran, welcoming you to this beautiful evening and to your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. I'm doing this with the support of the Virtual Academic Board chaired by Comfort, with support from Matthew, Emmanuel, Isaac, Priscilla, and of course today joining us, Faustina. On this beautiful day, I matriculate you into a week in which you will excel spiritually, in your leadership, emotionally, financially. I know you like that one, financially, professionally, and in every other area of your life. And if you will, simply say amen. And may you stay safe and may the Lord cover you in this very difficult season of our lives. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and powered by your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. We are also on Facebook, YouTube, and by extension, a number of online brands, and you can enjoy the experience there. Talking about YouTube, check out my YouTube page, Albert Ocran, for part 2 of that amazing experience on top of Mount Afaja or Afajatu. So in part 1, you saw Comfort and I sharing with you the climb and all the ins and outs. I promise you that it was going to be amazing. Part 2 will be even more special. 12 lessons from the mountaintop. Look out for that video and take time to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get updated on every single thing that comes up with our broadcasts and our videos. Springboard is made possible by the kind courtesy of some of Ghana's finest brands committed to the development of our human capital. Let me say a big thank you to MTN, Pulse, Just Be, UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, DigiBank, Let's Go, the Enterprise Group, Enterprise Your Advantage, and our print media partner, the Graphic Communications Group. Our thematic focus for 2021 is simple: repositioning. Somebody says, why do I need to reposition? Because you must review the past, redesign the present, and very importantly, reimagine the future. The assumptions based on which we lived our lives even 2 years ago have been so radically changed that we can't continue living life as we used to. Something must shift. And that is probably the reason why tonight's discussion is extremely important. So on the 1st of February, we had a new CEO. The whole of Ghana was looking out for the name Nana Dwemoh Benneh, the new CEO of the UMB Bank. I have the honor and the privilege to host him here today on your virtual university, finding out who he is, where he came from, how the journey has been, what are the learnings, what should we expect, and who is the person behind the nice seat. Nana Benneh, good to see you.
Great to see you, Reverend. And
you like my summary?
Yes, and the honor and privilege is definitely mine to be here this evening.
This is your home. This is the virtual university, it's your home. And once you're here, you're faculty. So how has the past week been settling on your role?
It's been very gratifying. I mean, as the news went out, I was very pleased and humbled, I suppose, by all the various messages I received from loads of people who've been part of my journey for many years. And there are some people I haven't spoken to in like 20 years that I had the opportunity to get back in touch with. And I think that energized me. Meeting the team in UMB has also been really delightful, even as I sort of start to get the ropes there and find my way around. So I must say I've had a great week, and I'm very, very blessed by
What would be the overwhelming sentiment as people reach out to you? What is the overwhelming sentiment you get? One word or one thing that describes the overwhelming sentiment?
Well, most people who've known me know I've been in banking for the last maybe 23 years or so. And so it's not one of surprise, but one of endorsement, one of the overarching emotion. I think people feel confident in what I can do. And that's, for me, is one of those things that have really encouraged me as I look forward to my new role and my new challenge.
And how do you yourself feel?
You know what, Albert? I mean, 23 years, almost the day when the announcement came out, I walked into Merchant Bank as a fresh graduate. And there were giants of industry who were working in Merchant Bank, associated with Merchant Bank. As you may know, Merchant Bank spawned a number of new businesses and new banks, new financial institutions out of there. And it was a team that was working around there then who did this. So I feel buoyant because I'm actually standing on the shoulders of some great people, great Ghanaian people who've built a very strong franchise with a very strong brand. That, if you like, energizes me as I look forward to my sort of tenure with my first love.
So it's almost like a homecoming.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, UMB now has gone through quite a lot of development since those sort of early days. It has emerged from what was very much a niche corporate banking institution into a universal banking and financial services franchise. Some of the things that have stayed constant is its proud heritage as a Ghanaian, wholly Ghanaian indigenous bank. And for me, that really resonates with me because I'm really one of those people who is very, very, very proud to be Ghanaian. And therefore, having to work with a indigenous Ghanaian bank after spending time working with international franchises, for me is a fitting sort of icing on the cake for now.
Let me take you back to the period between when you walked into UMB and when you walked in again, your second coming, if I may use those words. In between, give us an idea about your professional journey.
Yes.
And those are the ones that I love to hear about, the ins and the outs, the corners and the curves.
Yeah, I mean, Albert, I really wish I could sort of get you behind my eyeballs to be able to. It's been an amazing journey for me, and amazing mostly because of all the sorts of wonderful people I've met on this journey. I spent initial 2 years in a merchant bank working with some truly amazing people who, some of whom I'm still in touch with. And then I got privileged to join the Barclays PLC's business leadership program. So at that time, the Barclays group had wanted to put together a Pan-African group of management trainees.
I knew about that.
Yes, and the idea then was to train, if you like, the future leaders for their franchises in Africa. And I was blessed to get a space on that business leadership program. And then I spent 2.5 really exciting years spending time in London, training with the London management team, and then spending time in East Africa and in Ghana as well. So after I spent about a year or so on the program, I graduated of the management program, and my first assignment was actually in Uganda.
Wow.
So I went to Uganda as the head of retail for the then Barclays franchise in Uganda, which is a small business.
How different is Uganda? Let me interrupt a bit. How different is Uganda from Ghana culturally?
Well, put it this way, Albert. When I went my first day in Kampala, I just kept telling everybody, this is so much like Kumasi.
Really?
Yes, because the culture and the buzz in the place, it reminded me so much of Kumasi those days. And
so you would have called it Kuganda.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. It was good fun. And the people themselves, because for me, it's really the people that make the place.
Was it retail? Was it culture? What about?
Well, the Ugandans are also entrepreneurial,
okay.
But they also have a sort of a camaraderie that okay. reminds me of, you know, when you are in Kumasi and you enter a taxi, within 2 minutes, the next person there strikes a conversation with you. And they can tell you their whole life story.
Okay.
And in Uganda, I found the same thing. I found people who would just come up to you, open their homes to you, have that sort of conversation. And for a young boy who had gone on his first assignment outside, I mean, I was about 28, 29 years old. Wow. And so for me, on my own, it was a suitable, welcoming environment, which enabled me to thrive okay. In that. So Uganda held very great memories for me.
Right.
So I spent about 2 years in Uganda. And then I moved on to my next assignment, which was a regional job for Barclays, but based out of Nairobi. So I then moved to Nairobi. Now, Nairobi was very different from Uganda.
So that's in Kenya?
That's in Kenya.
Okay.
Because I found the Kenyans to be more reserved, a bit more taciturn. I tease them all the time that they're the Europeans of Africa. Wow. So they weren't as expressive, if you like, as they used to tell me that the West Africans were.
What explains that from where you sit?
I suppose culturally. So when you're in Kenya, the two tribes I found who were very similar to the West African tribes, who are the Luos and the Luyas. But the Kikuyus, their culture is a bit different. I think culturally they are more of a reserved kind of people.
That's what you found yourself?
Yes, and the Maasais as well are also a bit of a reserved side of view. The Maasais have something in common with the northern region of Ghana, but they are not as expressive, and so that's part of it. And
are you a fan of studying cultures and human behavior?
I spent time wondering about what happened 200 years ago and what impact it's had on us now. So I love culture. I really do. So
I meet my friend Kofi Daz, former CEO of Bank, and he's now a Mastercard. He
does
a lot of reading about ancient history, and he's an engineer. So
yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
He reads history.
Yes.
Talk about Alexander the Great and things like that.
So I spent, in Uganda and particularly in Kenya, I traveled the length and breadth of Kenya. I went into most of their villages because I made friends there. The thing about the Kenyans I found was, even though they were a bit more reserved at the beginning, unlike the Ugandans who were very open, once they realized that you had an interest in them, they embraced you, and actually I've had some really strong relationships, almost like family, all over these years, which we still maintain. Right. And they opened their homes to me, not only their homes, their villages. And so I got to understand their culture, I got to understand the people in there, learned a bit of Swahili while I was sort of working there. So it was another 2 or so years of great fun as I sort of got integrated into their lives. Right. So I was working first in Kenya, and then I had responsibility for the East African sort of franchise in there. Okay. And then I think 2004 and 2005, I got another assignment, this time in Johannesburg, looking after SMEs for the Barclays African franchise business. So I had to move into Johannesburg, which was another fun time. Johannesburg is a fast city, as you well know. Right. And at that time, it was happening. Most young Africans who wanted international careers were based out of Johannesburg. Even though there is a lot of crime in Johannesburg, thankfully I was spared that. But there was a lot to do there. It was like living in Europe or America, but being in Africa at the time. The economy was booming, and the rising, emerging black middle class was coming up as well. So it was a good time for me to experience businesses that were being spawned, entrepreneurship at its best. And I also then experienced a lot of the Southern African countries because I was working in the sort of African head office, and there were people from all walks of life in there. Right. I got exposed to some of the tensions that was the result of the apartheid that they had been through all along, and got to sort of understand the mindset a little bit. For me, it helped me a lot because I grew and I developed in terms of managing people and understanding where people are coming from and in life, because whether we like it or not, it always has an impact in terms of the work that we do. So I have very fond memories of Johannesburg. Right. After that, I went to spend 2 years in London, lived through the winters, and I was working in the Barclays PLC. And
is it the one in the Docklands?
Yes. The Canary Wharf.
Canary Wharf, yes. You know, Canary Wharf, I have a very serious interest in Canary Wharf because of the Collie.
Oh, right, absolutely.
So it used to be like the Collie the Collie that we have now. Yep, ostensibly, Margaret Thatcher decided to transform what was their Collie into a new hub, a new top of the range place. And when you go to that place, all the banks have their headquarters there. And whenever I see it, you get to see the water again, and you see how they literally have to reclaim the water and build them on it, the skyscrapers, and it really tells you what is possible at the college with vision and with leadership.
Absolutely. The possibilities, I think, are endless if you think about how she managed to convince all these big businesses to invest there, even though it was inconvenient for them. Because they were based in the middle of the city, and now they had to sort of move here to try and do it. But it's been an experiment that has worked very well.
Big time.
The real estate areas around that place all sort of developed along because people had to come to work, they wanted to be close, so it transformed it. And for me, it was an example of how business can actually transform economies and lives of people, etc. So it was, and this time I was working in corporate banking, so I spent some time going into some of the big corporates in the UK, going into their offices, understanding what it was. This was just before the credit crunch. So the heady days of where people were sort of running businesses at the fastest pace until you started to hear the rumors in terms of what was about to happen, etc., and which eventually sort of led to the crash. So being there at that time helped me because I then could understand certain things that business schools can teach you.
I can relate to that. So post UK, what happened next?
So I got an opportunity to come back home to work with Barclays in Ghana. They were looking for a consumer banking director at the time because at the time Barclays had been through a massive expansion of its retail franchise and they wanted somebody to come and consolidate the gains. And so I was tapped on the shoulder to come.
Is it a gentle tap?
Interesting you ask. It was a very interesting question because I had started working with corporate banking and I was looking to develop a bit more there because I spent a lot of time doing retail. But it was a great need for Barclays, and I was working with Barclays at the time. So the tap was a little bit harder than just a gentle one. But I gracefully accepted the challenge, and I came down. And I spent 4 years because obviously, having gone through the massive expansions, to consolidate, there was loads of things that had to be put and efficiencies that had to be gained, etc. So we spent. Myself and the team spent a lot of time working with some great friends of Springboard at the time. Kudja Diamonds was working with me there. Ben Dabra was our MD there.
Okay.
And Abno Sepuku Patience Achande. We were all together.
Right.
As a very young leadership team.
Interesting how they all went ahead to do big things.
Absolutely. I think that the experience we had was very uncomfortable, but it helped us to grow. Because there was a burning platform. We needed to make sure that we consolidated the gains. And through that you learn. As they say, necessity is the mother of most inventions. So through that we learned...
discomfort and growth. You mentioned two things that you batch together, but which most people find with a bit of disquiet, discomfort, and you say, but that is what leads to the growth. Will that be your message to a young person on the leadership train, being taken through some very uncomfortable experiences that you literally would rather not go through?
Albert, I have found in my life's journey, and I'm still sort of, hopefully not by no means over yet in terms of the lessons to learn. But I have found that with most development comes a little bit of trauma and discomfort. And we used to read about the fact that before Jesus started his ministry, he had to go into the desert and he was really hungry and he had to be tempted. But we see it, if you like, very much like a story. But in real life as well, I think before you can move to another level, my experience teaches me that it comes, unless a seed first dies, it really cannot grow. So I've learned to start to associate the two together and see most discomforting situations as an opportunity to develop and an opportunity to grow.
How big is faith, your personal faith in your life?
Well, but absolutely, I think that is a defining feature of my life. I truly believe that the world we live in is only a subset. And I believe that the physical world has a very strong link to the spiritual world. I believe the spiritual world is what governs the affairs of the physical world. And therefore, to navigate the physical world, you actually need to have some sort of link into the spiritual, because that's where you'll find most answers, if you like. That's what the constitution of living here is. And obviously we've been very privileged and blessed to be given clues like the Bible, etc. We've been given some role models who've sort of helped me. So that for me has been my life. I mean, for example, I'm always indebted to the Metropolitan Archbishop of Cape Coast, His Grace Archbishop Palmer Bako. We call him Father Bako because for 10 years he was my
He's a big Springboard.
Yes.
I don't know whether to call him faculty alumnus. He's been on the platform a number of times. He's so popular on this platform. It's incredible.
Yes. I mean, for 10 years, myself and some of my colleagues from Achimota School had the privilege of him being the Catholic Chapel chaplain. And being Catholic, I spent a lot of time with him. And so my formative years was spent with someone or a man of faith who wasn't just, if you like, a man of faith by title, but was very practical. And he led me into the love of the Bible, in pursuit of the understanding of God and the Christian life.
Let me wrap on a timeline. Let me finish on a timeline because I'm drawing something and I'm almost there. So you're back in Ghana.
Yes.
You're back doing something here in Ghana, consolidating. Let's end it on the timeline and end up back in UMB. What was next?
So after I did about 6 years doing that work, and at that time I'd now done 15 years in Barclays. So I began to want to see what else existed in the world apart from Barclays, and I got an opportunity to go and work in Springboard Bank as the executive director for personal and business banking. It was a great opportunity in my view because it combined the retail elements I'd learned and combined a bit of the corporate I'd also learned as well, because the business banking franchise was quite a significant one in there. And Springboard at that time had also just gone through an implementation of the franchise of personal and business banking. And so my mandate was to work with the team to see it grow. So it presented an opportunity for me to make an impact, which it tends to be what guides me. So I then moved to Springboard. I spent 7 glorious years working with the team there. And together we actually succeeded in growing the business into a very strong franchise that we were all very proud of. And so that wonderful time came to an end late last year when I saw the UMB opportunity to come and work with the team in UMB as well.
You say it very modestly, the opportunity to come and work with the team.
I'm sure that all along going through that program, the leadership development program, for everyone on that program, your ultimate is to become an MD, a CEO, C-suite at the very highest level. I'm sure when this opportunity came, you said, there it is. Let's talk about that one. How did you feel? Just angling for it, getting it, being notified.
So I spent. It was a relatively short period. I spent maybe a month or two in conversations about the role and about what it could do for me. Because you see, one of the things I do is, even though I love the fact that I'm a CEO and an MD, and I love the fact about all the attention it brings, etc., I'm very much more attracted to the impact I can make to a role. That for me drives me more. So when the UMB opportunity came, I had spent a lot of time introspecting to see if it was something I could add value to.
Would you have said no if you didn't convince yourself?
In the past, I have said no to some opportunities that I thought I couldn't add value to. Because
with the benefit of hindsight, you think you're right?
Yes. I mean, in the past, there have been other jobs I've also angled for, and they didn't happen. But after 2-3 years, I've sort of figured out maybe they weren't the right ones in there. So that has taught me to be a bit more stated in terms of how I make decisions. Because sometimes it looks very good from the outside, but if you don't spend a bit more time reflecting on what it is you can do. Because, well, at least for me personally, if I did a job and in my heart I knew I didn't give the best to the job, even if outwardly people congratulated me and said nice things, I would not be able to sort of feel comfortable within myself. So that's one of the reasons why I try very much to, if you like, take my time nowadays to sort of reflect a little bit. And the UMB opportunity, I know there was one crucial week when discussions were almost getting to a head. And I had to take time out to sort of really think and really prayerfully reflect and see, is this something that I think will give me an opportunity to make an impact? And it was a bit daunting in terms of that, but eventually I decided to sort of take a step of faith and hope and pray.
Congratulations.
Thank
I can
you.
now congratulate you
Thank
on
you.
the assumption of the role. So what we've done in the past, in the first part of this conversation, Nana Benneh, is to find out the person who stepped into this role. And for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, I'm sure that when we hear somebody has become MD, you're like, wow, Afa, it's good for him. It's natural. In fact, you can even envy him, and it's always good. But when you get to hear the journey the person has walked through, two things happen to you. You begin to appreciate how they have been prepared for the role, and then also you begin to have confidence that the right person is handling your bank, and then therefore you can continue to build business, and you can also reach out and then be part of this unfolding story that we are sharing here on Springboard, the virtual university. I'm going to go for a brief break, give him a chance to catch his breath. When I come back, let's find out. So now that he's here, what next? What should the people who are staff of the bank expect? The public, stakeholders, the government, everyone. And then even more importantly, what will be different and how can people learn from his journey and his aspirations? We'll also find out the lighter side of his life. Please don't go away.
Abrabo, you were late yesterday and today too you are late. What is wrong with you?
Kat, my wife is standing outside there. She needs money.
Everybody does so remu. Enti wanya daji enye wajuma. Sama dofo no mebusianfo nye sika ye bibia. Ni UMB speed up na di bua me no. Dwuma die bi to say contact sync wo so. It is our UMB account. Na wo me contact so dia. Me timi manu sika wo baby bia me mre ho kra. Na se wo beti obo so ho na den. Na me de mea. Sesi adie, min chinchin se me ye bibia biemo. Mitumi bi salon, mi nyansi ho wo me UMB mobile savings wallet ni so. Mitumi to insurance, to credit egu me phone so. Mi sa so de tua me bills bia. Mitumi iska wo UMB ATM bia so amin kra card bia. Wo betumi ahyehyɛ wo mre ene nkita wodie. E wo UMB speed up kwan pana so. UMB speed up. Digi Bank. Let's go.
Your smartphone is just a phone until you have the Advantage app. This is your power to know more and do more. With a few instructions and a tap to send, you'll be sorted out within minutes. Take advantage of our app. Buy a policy from any of our subsidiaries. Request for a quote, make a claim, and check your statement. What's more, you can also get health tips, traffic information, and find garages and more. Download the Advantage app on Google Play and Apple Store now. Take Advantage. Here's to over 95 years of trust.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Welcome back to Springboard, the virtual university. A very fascinating conversation with Nana Dwemoh Benneh, the new Chief Executive Officer of the UMB Bank. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. We are live on Facebook and also on YouTube. And this is a conversation that I'm sure every aspiring leader listening to is learning from. And of course, those in the middle belt are saying, this is how to get to the top. And if you missed it out, I'm going to share some highlights very shortly. But Springboard is brought to you in partnership with MTN Pulse Just Be, UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, DigiBank, Let's Go, and the Enterprise Group Enterprise, Your Advantage. So, in the first part of this conversation, Nana Benneh has been walking us through his journey, and we've been finding out his cultural orientation or ability to understand human cultures and compare the cultures of different people across the world with that of different segments of people in Ghana. We also are finding out that he has an interest in history and the evolution of people. And very importantly, he also has a strong faith that undergirds his work. We are finding out that he's come to the role with over 2 decades of experience, largely in banking, which he hopes to bring to bear in the UMB Bank. Nana Benneh, as you start work on this role, of all the experiences you described, it would almost seem like every next role was an aggregation of all the learnings from the previous role, or an amalgamation of sorts. At this role, what do you bring to the role?
Oh, thank you. And that was a good summary, by the way. I now appreciate why you're good at what it is that you do. So,
I love doing this.
So keep going there, yes. I think, what do I bring to the role? Again, so firstly, Albert, I believe very strongly that every role that you take comes with, and I know the word is sort of overused, but it comes with some sort of anointing. There's something that is added to you.
I actually like that word. I think
yes.
it's limited when we use it for only spiritual things.
Yes, absolutely. I think it comes to, in all the roles that I've done, there have been times when ideas have just occurred to me, or things have just asked me to ask a certain question, etc. For me, it's making sure that our customers experience us not only as a Ghanaian bank, but a Ghanaian bank that has, if you like, international standards in the way in which we serve them and in the way in which we treat them as well. The other thing that excites me about this role is that at UMB now, one of our key strategies is SME and bringing innovative products and services to our SME team. And I mean, throughout the years that I've been working, throughout the turbulences in economy, etc., you will always find 2, 3, 4 local indigenous Ghanaian companies that have survived through it all and are still thriving businesses. Yes, a number of them couldn't, but a number of them have survived as well. So it gives me great pleasure to be able to assist, help, and support them with financial services, and then spawn new businesses as well. So one of the things UMB has that excites me, for example, is the incubator, where young people with business ideas can come in and receive some sort of help from staff, customers who have the technical expertise or some knowledge that helps them to also start to sort of grow businesses as well.
Let's stay with this incubator idea, because you've had the privilege of working with many young people throughout this COVID-19 recovery period. And it's brought, the core program that we worked on brought us very close to young people, not just in the regular formal sector where we've operated over the years, but in this particular instance, since June last year, in the informal sector, the local language speakers, the semi-rural areas. And I can tell you that the business support for SMEs is an understated. It is huge. It's huge. So tell me about the incubator and how that could be a response to that need.
Oh, but the more and more I interact with younger people now, I mean, maybe 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to attend the first hackathon in KNUST University, where students got together using technology, and in 48 hours had to come up with a business idea that they had fleshed out. And I was completely blown away, very fascinated that young people could just come together and come up with a business idea and come up with a way to implement it in just 2 days. That is a complete mind shift from where traditional businesses do things now, and they possess a lot of a can-do spirit. I mean, I speak to a lot of young people. They are not looking for employment.
No,
they're actually looking to set up their own businesses.
Absolutely.
When we finished school, we were writing, 20, 30 CVs, and our main prayer was to get to work in an organization. So there's a complete shift now, and I think that it is both a responsibility and an immense opportunity to help such future business owners and leaders to be able to fashion their businesses properly and to avoid some certain pitfalls that you inevitably will come.
You don't always get a CEO to be in the studio. So let me ask you. So if there's a young person listening right now who wants to take advantage of the incubator program, I want to understand what exactly they will get. Do you mean they can walk into the bank at any branch and ask about the incubator, and they can get access to guidance for their business? Is it just like that?
So our incubator center is based in Medina, and the idea about the incubator is that when a young person walks in and wants to register to do business there, we look at what the business idea is. Firstly, we provide space for you to be able to come, maybe have a few meetings, and also spend some time doing your sort of office work, because most of them can't sort of rent places. And then also within our staff, we have people who have technical expertise that the young people might be looking for. So we organize sessions where they could be mentored, if you like, or go through some sort of processes, be it a legal issue you might be having, etc.
And you have capacity?
We do have some capacity.
Okay.
Some capacity.
So I'm going to announce the number they should call or reach out to, or how they can get help with this incubator.
Yes,
it's a good thing.
Yes, we do have some capacity. And the good thing about life now is that everything doesn't need to be physical.
Yes, so they can reach out to you.
So there is the virtual aspect part of it as well, which we also promote to be able to sort of help. And obviously the idea is simple. And when the businesses start to emerge, that is our future pipeline of businesses.
Christina, get us the number they can call. Get us the number they can call. Right here, live on air. Get us the number that they can call, because really, I can tell you what, for many people listening out there, this is not talk. I'm telling you, you'll be surprised at how many, and we are here on the Virtual University. A year from now, we're going to be able to call somebody and say, the person heard about the incubator when you were talking, and they reached out and they got help, and this is where they are. Listen, if you are listening to us, this is the number to call: 030-0302. 666-331. If you call and it's engaged, please call again.
Yes,
0302-666-331 is the number to call. And I'm going to keep this here.
Yes.
And remind people again.
Absolutely.
To access the incubator program. Is that one of the things you'll be driving as CEO?
Yes. So what I actually wanted to add to that is that it's all work in progress. We are trying to build it up. I mean, we started with one. We're seeing how the numbers are going, how to try and build it up. But it's one of those areas that I'm very passionate about. So
let me broaden the scope a bit. So the theme of Springboard for 2021 is repositioning. We say we want to review the past, redesign the present, and then reimagine the future. Sitting here as UMB CEO, how does that theme resonate with you?
It does quite resonate with me, Albert. For example, when I started banking, we used to write a lot of ledgers. Yeah, we used to stay up late passing entries because maybe that day there's been very heavy traffic, etc. Fast forward, those days computers were few and far between. Fast forward, that's become the part of our life. We've now moved into robotics and AI technology, and that's presenting all of us with new and exciting ways of doing business faster, without errors, and allowing our staff to focus more on the building relationships with the customers rather than just sort of passing sort of vouchers. So all of us have to now reposition ourselves in terms of the service we offer. And I believe that banks are all moving towards advisory now, because the human beings will now be freed up to do more of advisory work rather than to do, if you like, the operational, transactional sort of work that we sort of find ourselves in. Also, up until maybe 10 years ago, we only saw competition as other banks. In 2021, our competition does not certainly end with banks alone, because with the emergence of mobile money and all sorts of wallets that we've got in now, people actually have access to financial services without necessarily going to a bank. And therefore, as banks, we also have to become a bit more agile in terms of how we service customers, how we make sure that we bring the services to the doorsteps of the customer, so that we can also play that game, because that mobile phone that we all hold has now become a central point for most things that we do.
I'm going to come to you on that, but let me read you some research that I pulled out from my training notes about customer expectations. And nothing will surprise you from this. It says, today's customer expects fully personalized financial advice from banks shaped by their personal circumstances. So it includes analysis of their spending habits and advice on how to manage their money. Second expectation, they expect to be able to switch seamlessly between physical banking and digital channels. Two things. How does that tie into your strategy?
It does. So for a bank like UMB, the last few years we've spent a lot of resources investing heavily in building an infrastructure that allows us to be more digital, in line with the strategy of providing more digital services to particularly our SME and our retail sort of customers. And therefore, having spent all that money, then the time has now come for us to sweat those assets. And some of it we will have to do in-house, some of it we will have to do through collaborations about people who are already there offering these things, and partnerships, because that has now become, if you like, the way to go. Now, even the giants like Apple, etc., who used to be very closed, are now opening up into collaborations, because that's a new world in which we find ourselves in. And so that's where our strategy, bringing the strategy to life, having to go. The other thing now is that people don't want to wait because it's instant gratification. People are used to going on Facebook and getting quick responses. People are used to buying things off the net and immediately happening it done. So whatever services we are offering has to mirror that length of time to gratification, that immediacy that we sort of need. And these are challenges that we in traditional banking have to confront, because our models have been built on a certain process which may not necessarily offer very shortened sort of timelines. So these have become now, if you like, the burning platforms for us, which is why I talk about collaboration.
What about the effects of COVID on banking?
Yeah, so I was having a discussion with one of my friends in banking the last time and saying, if COVID had happened maybe 10 years earlier, it would have been disastrous for most banks, because we were not prepared to work with our customers virtually. Fast forward, when COVID happened, we at least could immediately respond with some level of minimized service to our clients because of some of the investments. But what COVID has taught us as well is that this intimacy with the customer, over and beyond the physical location, it's a big priority, because you must find a way to offer 100% of services to the customer without them coming to you. And that alone is a big, tall order for banks like us, who've spent years building our models, which includes an assumption that at a stage there will be an interaction.
Does it increase the pressure on you?
It does, but it's exciting, because there are solutions out there, there are tools out there. So it's just that will to prioritize and work together for us to be able to get into that.
Let's explore one more thing before we wrap up with your person and your fears, your loves, and everything. So let's find out one more thing from my notes. The average customer has only 25% of their wallet with a single bank, and 69% of customers who plan to leave their bank say it was rather due to poor service than poor products. Final one. By the end of last year, customer experience overtook pricing and product as the key brand differentiator. All these three things speak to service. What should your stakeholders expect about the quality of service under your tenure?
So, Albert, I'm very, very, very passionate about how we
Should I count the number of varies?
Yes, very, very passionate about. And sometimes for people who work with me, that passion comes a little stronger than they prefer when it comes to how we deal with our customers. Tell you what, the first real job I did was in Uganda as head of retail. Even though I was head of retail, my office was based in the branch. So there was a branch manager, but I was head of retail, my office was in the branch. And it was such that when customers came into the branch and they were unhappy, they knocked on the door and just came in and ranted, whether you were in the middle of a meeting or not. And it was one of the most useful experiences I've ever had, because the barometer was very, very immediate. You could tell. And I think that has sort of formed me in terms of...
The moment you mentioned Uganda, my mind went to Kumasi.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I began to trace their personality as you described it and how the complaint will come.
It is very fascinating, absolutely. For me, I believe that our success lies with a customer at a time. Our success lies on a single-minded focus on every customer experience. It requires us to make sure that we have the right, appropriate customers. But it also means that we have to spend sleepless nights until we get to the point where the customer is satisfied. Now, I'm not oblivious to the fact that that is not quite what our industry now stands for, and that there's a lot of work to be done. But my objective is that we try our damnedest to get to that point, because when we start to succeed there, all the others sort of fall into place. The other thing that I'm very passionate about is ensuring that we have the right to maintain our license to do banking in the country, which speaks to ethics and speaks to integrity, and then speaks to a relationship with our regulators that enables us to continue to do business. So those, for me, are the two key areas that I will be focusing on, yes.
Let me find out the person behind the person. Do you do any sport?
I used to play tennis long ago, but now I'm more, if you like, sedate, which is more the golf.
I should get you back on the tennis court.
Yes.
I still play tennis, even though I have a little shoulder injury.
Yeah. Yes,
what about your fears? What do you fear?
I fear small planes, especially when there's turbulence.
Small planes. That's how you board a plane. I'll inspect and ask them to increase the size of the plane a little for you. And when they are booking the flight, you should book one that is bigger.
Tell you what, Albert, when I was in school and I grew up on campus, as you know, my dad was a lecturer, so we grew up on campus, and we used to dream about flying all the time and living the life as we sort of envisaged it. So the first times I started to fly, it was very exciting. Then as work now enabled me to fly more and more, I became more afraid. It's very ironic, but the more I flew, the more scared I became about what it is that was going to happen. Yeah, so that remains one of those sort of...
How big is family? How big is family?
Big? Well, for me, families, I come from, my brothers and sisters were 6. And we grew up in a very big, boisterous family life, even with the extended family as well. I have 4 children with my wife Amy, and so we are also, if you like, in the modern world, not a small family. But family is very important to me. I think that is the one way in which I find myself grounded.
The children want to go into banking?
Well, I don't encourage them to do that. I think for me, it's yes, absolutely, and it's good for everybody to find a path that excites them, because I think the reason why I've been able to stay so long in banking is I really find it exciting.
What did you find it exciting?
Sorry?
What did they find it exciting?
What they did, they give me, they'll have my absolute blessing, because I really believe that whatever you do will become mundane. So if it doesn't excite you, you won't survive.
2 quick ones. What would you say to somebody starting the journey? You talked about your first arrival at UMB, starting your career. I can remember those times, the Christnatis. It was the UMB. It was almost like that was the place to start your life from, or go when you wanted to be a banker. If somebody is starting their career right now, what would be your advice to them?
I think my advice to them, one word is hope.
Hope?
Yes. I think so many times we beat ourselves down before we even start, but I think that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, for those of us who believe. But that level of optimism and hope is what drives you on, even when it becomes a bit challenging. So that will be for me. And the other thing is just avoid the sense of entitlement. Because I just think that entitlement just drains you, and even if it didn't happen now, it would happen. Once you keep going at it, it always does. Right. This is what I.
Where do you see UMB 5 years from now?
Well, you did hear me talk about optimism and hope. And so when I think about UMB in 5 years' time from there, I want us to be one of the tier 1 banks in the country, and I want us to be a leading Ghanaian indigenous bank in the country. So help us God.
Wow. I would have let you go, but when you keep saying Ghanaian, so let me let you sign off on what you love about this country.
You know, Albert, I think all the time about when I was in primary school, and I know I'm maybe betraying my age. You know, we used to say the pledge.
Yeah, national pledge, yes. I promise on my honor,
I promise on my honor to be faithful
sing
to
it,
the
yeah.
lawyer. I don't hear it anymore, but those are the things for me that is Ghanaian. I dance. I love to dance, by the way. And most of the traditional dances, I have some sort of skills in most of the sort of traditional dances. Those things for me are proudly Ghanaian.
For the people, we have a lot of names for him here. Nilanti, we call him several names. And he said he also dances.
Yes,
you mentioned the dances that he dances on
we used to have a lot of his birthday parties when we were in Arch Motor School.
Okay.
And he was a good dancer as well. And I love that. I love the fact that there are so many hidden parts of Ghana that nobody knows.
Okay.
We have all these lovely tourist places.
We went to Afroja to Comfort and I'm telling you something.
Absolutely.
It was just an experience of a lifetime.
Yes,
and we do quite a bit of domestic tourism.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me present this autographed copy of our favorite books, Comfort and I, 1001 Tips for an Outstanding Life. And I think this book is so suited to you and to this conversation. Even the color even matches your tie and your suit. So this book is for you. Just autographed for you, Celebrating Leadership to Nana Benneh from Albert and Comfort, February 2021. It comes with a prayer that God will guide you, God will lead you, and your tenure will see the bank rise to the highest heights. So this is it from Comfort and I.
Thank you so much.
I can't ask you to dance, but look in the camera and speak one or two. This camera and speak one or two words in Swahili to close us. Since you said you speak Swahili, just do.
So Nashukuru in Swahili is, Asante Sana is thank you, but Nashukuru means I'm deeply grateful. So Nashukuru, Bwana Albert.
Nashukuru. Oh, Lord of mercy. All right, so this has been that edition of Springboard that I've enjoyed, just hanging out up close and personal with Nana Dwemoh Benneh, the new CEO of UMB Bank. We've tried to find out the person behind the role, the journey that has brought him to where he is, his aspirations for the bank, the challenges he's trying to unravel, the need of today, and the hope for tomorrow. And his closing thoughts, which he said in Swahili, were what?
Nashukuru. I'm deeply,
so from
deeply
me to you, it is Nashukuru. My name is Albert Ocran, saying God bless you. And on behalf of Comfort and the entire crew, God bless you, God bless you, and God bless you.